Welcome to this week's edition of the C+J Speedway Review. I'm Spencer Gallagher. Alongside me this week... Oh, that's wrong. I'm Chris Burns from the Loki Jabroni Show. That's all I've got to say about that. The man across the screen from me is none other than Corey Huffnagel, the man of the hour, the Tower of Power, too sweet to be sour. Corey, how you doing this week?
I'm doing pretty good. I have to say, the races at Talladega, were really exciting. Didn't really disappoint in my book. Saturday was pretty good, and Sunday was also good as well. And all I could just say is I just love super speedway racing, and can't wait for the guys to go to Daytona in July and Talladega in October.
Absolutely, but you know what we got this week? Hold on, let me show you the shirt. Oh
Yeah,
it's
the
Dover,
Monster Mile.
baby, one of my favorite tracks of all time. Now, before we get started, I want to throw a couple of early shout-outs. One, this Tuesday on the Loki Jabroni Show, unfortunately, Loki couldn't be here. He was in Boston watching that team that plays in Fenway Park, the Boston Red Sox. He is a big fan. I am not. So to fill in his seat, I brought one of my best friends of all time, the godfather of my daughter, one of the godfathers of my daughter. She has two. She's lucky. I brought in Chris Lynch, known to you guys in the internet world as Strikers McLynch. He got to sit in the big chair. We had a fun time doing the great Van Halen debate. If you're a fan of Van Halen, go check that out. Wanted to give him a shout out. He did a fantastic job. We couldn't have been happier. Second, on a racing note, I want to give a shout out to Mark Gazarju. He watches the show. Big fan. And finally, he's been asking me all year, Chris, when is Brad Keselowski going to run that Miller Lite car? I bought all this swag. He's been running everything but Miller Lite. Mark, you're going to get your moment this Sunday at Dover as Brad Keselowski takes that Blue Deuce out on the track with the Miller Lite colors. And Mark supports us in everything we do. So I wanted to give them a little shout out. So thank you to Chris. Mark, there's your shout out for the Brad Keselowski gimmick.
Yes.
Now, we might as well just dive into this right now because the biggest story in the NASCAR world right now is that Spencer Gallagher has been suspended indefinitely after he failed a drug screening. This was announced Wednesday.
Yep.
Gallagher drives the number 23 Chevrolet for GMS Racing, and he will have to participate in the Road to Recovery program if he wants to drive again this season. The failed drug test comes just days after Gallagher got his first NASCAR Xfinity win this past weekend at Talladega. Quote from Gallagher says, "I want to assure everyone in the NASCAR community that this is a one-time error in judgment and will never happen again. I am taking the steps to enroll in the Road to Recovery program supported by NASCAR. I would also like to say that I am sorry to all of the GMS organization for my actions, especially my team and team owner, who have worked so hard this year and have put faith in me. I also want to apologize to NASCAR, Chevrolet, and my fans for letting them down. I have not upheld the behavior that is expected of me, and I promise you all here and now, I will do what it takes to make this right." The craziest thing about this story, and there's a billion reasons and a billion things that grandfathers people into the playoffs if something happens. I found this to be an interesting piece of news. And Corey, as soon as I read this sentence, I want to get your reaction. Should Gallagher be reinstated this season, he will not be able to earn a playoff waiver. What are your thoughts on that?
I'd probably say, let's face it, NASCAR pretty much has a zero tolerance rule whenever it comes to drug testing and, substance abuse and whatsoever. And, and we pretty much saw that, Gallagher pretty much abused that substance policy and he pretty much lived up to it. But I'd probably say that, I think it's probably the best time for him to sit out this year and then pretty much come back the next year and so forth. And, and I liked pretty much the term that, okay, you'll come back, but this year you can't, and we won't give you a playoff waiver or so forth. But yeah, I mean, the first time I heard that story yesterday, I was actually surprised myself. And I was also saying to myself as well, talk about a kid who won at Talladega this past Saturday. He was already locked into the playoffs. He had nothing to lose, and this happens.
Well,
and it's pretty much.
Go ahead.
And it's pretty much Spencer pretty much did what he did. He lived up to it, and but honestly, I do wish the best of him. I mean, he's a great talent driver. the fact that he drove a good race on Saturday at Talladega, just pretty much, amazed me the most. And I didn't really think that team was going to win as well. But before you get on to a subject, let's take a look at one driver who did the Road to Recovery program and passed it. And that guy was A.J. Allmendinger. Because
Absolutely, I was going to mention him.
Because back in 2012, when he got suspended by Penske when he was taking Adderall, which is, not, on the NASCAR list and so forth, he comes back, I want to say a year later, drives Xfinity and IndyCar races for Roger Penske, wins those 2 Xfinity races, which was then nationwide. Year later, gets a full-time Cup ride for JTG Doherty Racing, wins at Watkins Glen, gets himself into the playoffs, and, we actually saw one guy that passed this Road to Recovery program, and other drivers, they either didn't want to do it or failed to do it,
or ended up on Crime and Sports, which
exactly.
you should listen to right now.
Yep.
Episode 96, Jeremy Mayfield.
Yes.
Again, look, this kid, he says in the pits he's going to party like it's 1999. Every driver that goes through those pits, whether you're on the Truck Series, the Xfinity Series, and there's one more piece of information that I want to bring on to you that you reported on our site, but we'll go into that in a minute. It's one thing to party. It's one thing to have a couple beers and do this and do that, but when your job is to drive a race car, especially at Talladega, where the speeds, even in the Xfinity cars, were topping out at 195.
Yeah.
You really need to watch what you do. NASCAR, for their credit, has perhaps the most stringent drug policy of any of the major sports here in America.
Yeah.
You get popped for cocaine in baseball, you appeal it, guess what? You're on the field the next day. You get popped in football, oh, I'm appealing that. You're on the field the next week. NASCAR, no such luck. You got popped for a drug test, thank you, F you, bye. You're going to go do the Road to Recovery program. That is the most fantastic thing that they've done, because I remember it started right around the Jeremy Mayfield era where he was like, no, I didn't do this. I didn't do this. And what happened? He gets popped with a meth lab in his house.
Yep.
So there is something behind it, at least in the Mayfield case. With Allmendinger, yeah, he went through that Road to Recovery program. He made his amends, and he's doing the right thing. Obviously, he's going to get tested more than someone who didn't fail the test.
Exactly.
As it should be. So when Gallagher comes back, this is a time for young Spencer to prove to the world, and most importantly, to himself, that was a one-time deal. Like he said in the quote, this is a one-time deal. I don't know what he did. I don't care what he did.
Right.
To be honest, that's Spencer Gallagher's life. I don't need to know what he popped for, and I don't care. But when he comes back and he puts tires to the track once again, he is going to have a spotlight on him that is so bright, because they're going to be waiting for him to screw up again. And my hope for him is that he shoves it all up their butt sideways and says, yes, I made a mistake. I cleaned it up. Let's move on.
Good quote. And you look at his results this year, he only had like 2 top 5s and 5 top 10 finishes. And, this team was pretty much consistent, most of this year. And actually it's funny because his average finish, was a 9.8 before he ended up winning at Talladega this year. And I think we could probably say that, okay, Spencer Gallagher's win at Talladega counts, but, with him being suspended indefinitely, he's pretty much off the playoff table. Mm-hmm. And now we're back to 2 drivers that are already in based on wins.
Well, look at it this way. I not to jump ahead to what we do every single week, but I'm looking right now at the top 16 in the Xfinity Series, and he's 7th in points.
Yeah.
That's not a joke. That means this kid is driving his heart out. He's in the top 10. He's within that 12-driver bubble, and with a win, had he not screwed up, he's automatically in the playoffs come September. Now comes this test. Boom, you got popped. Don't care what you did. Don't want to know what you did.
Yeah.
Get it out of the way. He just basically, he had the world in his hands being in the top 10. Then he wins. He jumps up. I think he jumped up 4 spots with that win. And now it's all gone. So at a young age like Spencer is, which I think he said it was 23 years old.
Yeah.
Am I right on that? Okay, so at 23, you can bounce back from that. Unlike a Jeremy Mayfield, who was in his mid-30s, AJ Allmendinger was late 20s, early 30s. There's still a way to bounce back from that. I'm really hoping the best for Spencer Gallagher going forward, that he can actually commit to this road to recovery program, get back in the car. What strikes me the worst is that in one of these stories, it said that Gallagher is the son of the Allegiant Air CEO Maurice Gallagher Jr., which part of me wants to say this is the rich kid that cannot be touched and everything goes his way and dad can buy him out of trouble. And the other side of it says, well, he's out there, he's driving a car. There's one person to blame at the end of every day in a race car, more often than not, and that's the guy holding the wheel.
Right.
Which side do you sit on? Rich kid gone bad or mistake by a kid who's driving his car out?
I'm probably going to say rich kid gone bad.
I was going to go the same way. So let's see what the future holds for Spencer Gallagher. Real quick hit, because I know we have the trucks to preview this week.
Yeah.
So we're going to have a little more expanded episode than we usually do. How do you feel about NASCAR absorbing ARCA?
I think it's a very interesting idea because when they actually bought that series, and I guess the owner is kind of thinking about maybe like opting out, and with all due respect, ARCA, they go to like different racetracks, like, super speedways, road courses, short tracks, dirt tracks, you name it. So I'd probably say that, within the next couple of years, I think, between NASCAR and ARCA, they're probably going to do something with like, the K&N series, East and West, and then not to mention, maybe like Xfinity or somewhere like a little bit down the road. But I'm actually kind of interested to see where this is all going to play out. And it's actually funny because, some of these guys who are coming into the truck series and the Xfinity series and whatnot, these kids used to race in ARCA themselves. I can think of one kid that's going to be racing for Kyle Busch Motorsports, I think, in like a few races this year. Riley Herbst, he drives the 18 car in ARCA. And then you also have Michael Annett, who used to be in the ARCA series as well. And then you also had Justin Allgaier, who used to race in ARCA. So you have those Cup guys, Xfinity guys that used to race in that series before. But it's actually funny because I'm really interested to see what that series can bring to the table within the next 3 to 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd say that if they can combine with the K&N series and all that stuff, I think it's going to be very interesting because it's funny because somebody said that I guess the cars are kind of like what the K&N series is, even though the speeds are not that great, but, they do make a lot of exciting racing.
When you go back to the old, and I'm just going to throw Kevin Harvick out here, is that when you go back to the old Winston West series, which is now the K&N West series,
yeah,
the cars weren't that dissimilar. They were very close in how they built the cars, fabricated the cars, the shape of the car, the horsepower, etc. But you failed to mention one former ARCA champion that I think really deserves a lot of credit because he did go on to win a Winston Cup. That guy right there, Rusty Wallace, in the number 2, was an ARCA champion way back when in like 1741 when the car was first rolled out, etc. so forth. And I'm kidding on that one, but no, Rusty Wallace was an ARCA pro. You also had Mark Martin, Dick Trickle. A lot of guys came up on that series that made their way into NASCAR and on the highest level and were very competitive. It's a great feeder system, and to me, that NASCAR is now absorbing ARCA, the possibilities are endless. You're going to have more young, hungry drivers coming up through ARCA, through K&N East and West, through the Whelen Modifieds, all the way up through the trucks, Xfinity, etc. This is nothing but good for the NASCAR world, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Okay. So, again, with the trucks this week, we are crunched for time. I know we've had long episodes recently, and you guys, from what I understand, enjoy it. But Dover's going to have the truck, so we got to not breeze through, but we're going to go straight to Talladega this past weekend. The Xfinity Series, it was the Sparks Energy 300. And Corey, I know you watched the race. You saw the last lap pass in overtime. Spencer Gallagher winning the race. We've already covered Spencer. Let's not get too much into that. What were your thoughts coming out of that race?
Well, I'd probably say, for instance, Talladega just brings a lot of exciting racing, like whether the Truck Series, Xfinity, or the Cup Series race there and so forth. But I would have to say that, with no Cup drivers in the field, it just made a lot of exciting racing. And the last couple laps, I really thought somebody was going to wreck, either coming to the white flag or the checkered flag and so forth. And then what happened was I ended up seeing Gallagher taking the pass for the lead from somebody, whoever it was. And then, so then coming down the backstretch, and it's funny because he actually has spotter Clayton Hughes, who spots for Martin Truex Jr. on Sunday. So he's been like telling him like where to go. And there was one part on Race Hub, I think it was like last night or Tuesday night or whatever it was, like the sound that Clayton Hughes like told his driver like where to go, where not to go. It was basically like play by play, go there, don't go there, blah blah blah, and so forth. But then coming into turn 3, I really thought that Cole Custer was going to make that last lap pass for the win, and he didn't have a really good push like right at the end. And then I saw the 19 of Brandon Jones, was going to try and make a pass for the win too, and everybody came to the line. I think 3 by 3 almost, and but the finish was great. Elliott Sadler ended up coming home with the dash for cash for like the second straight week. But yeah, all I could just say is the what we didn't get to see the big wreck, as usual. But Talladega just makes it really exciting. And what was also perfect was this weekend. We had the drivers only broadcast. So you had Kevin Harvick and Clint Boyer and Joey Logano up in the booth. And
how bad was it? Was it good or was it bad? I only got to see the last 10 minutes of the race.
It's actually, it was actually very interesting because like you're sitting there, but you're not only listening to the analysts, you're mostly listening to like the drivers, that have raced for like 12 years, that have been in the Cup Series for a long time. They know what those cars are like, and they know how to drive. They know how those cars can drive, whether if it's either at like a super speedway or short track and so forth. Actually, put it this way. Last year, the first time they ever did this drivers only broadcast was at Pocono last year.
Right.
So when they first came out with this, I thought, it is kind of interesting because they do have like one driver like up at the booth like every single weekend, like as what Fox produces and so forth, and NBC, they might just have that with Junior next year and all that. But Saturday was actually kind of interesting because again you had Harvick, Boyer, and Logano up at the booth, and then you had Keselowski and Ricky Stenhouse at the Hollywood Hotel. And then the guys that were the pit reporters, you had Ryan Blaney, you had Bubba Wallace, and then the other guy, I forget his name, but no, I thought it was very interesting, and I think Fox did a really great job doing that. And I would say that if NBC Sports can do that in the Xfinity Series sometime either this year or next year, I think that would be a really great idea.
Oh, I don't disagree with that at all. The one I remember watching that one last year. It was just prior to the start of what we're doing here now.
Yeah.
And it was great to hear a driver's perspective. No offense to the Mike Joys of the world, the Rick Allens, etc., but you've never been behind that wheel. And I said it here on this show, coming up to and including the playoffs, that in my opinion, Jeff Gordon is the best guy on the stick who has ever been behind the wheel of a race car. Having said that, the best guy who's behind the stick that has worked on a race car is Larry McReynolds. When you listen to Larry Mack, you're getting 100% a number one expert opinion. No offense to what's his name, Jeff Hammond. Love Jeff Hammond, but Larry Mack takes you, gear by gear, piece by piece, and explains to you exactly what's going on with that race car. But Jeff Gordon and Larry Mack, they are the class of the field. But to hear the drivers in the booth basically giving you insight as if you are sitting behind the wheel or in the passenger seat, and as they're wrenching the wheel and going around these tracks, it's fantastic. It's probably a thing they should do more often than not, and I'm not trying to boost anybody out of a job here because I think the Xfinity Series commentators are fantastic.
Yeah.
But you really should have more of that. I would love to see if Fox or NBC would do so, to have either retired Hall of Fame drivers like Rusty Wallace, Terry Labonte, etc., do the whole broadcast, or bring up some Xfinity guys who are really good on the stick, who can talk them, who can just enunciate correctly what's going on in that race car. Why not have the Xfinity guys call the Cup race? All you're getting out of this is pure 100% knowledge, because these guys have been behind the wheels of car, and they can tell you when a guy gets squirrely on the backstretch at Talladega, and we're going to get into a lot of squirrely when we talk about the Cup race.
Yeah.
They're going to tell you it's this, it's the side draft, it's coming out of this, it's the pavement, it's whatever. A lot of things go into this that Mike Joy, Rick Allen, Bob Jenkins back in the day was my favorite announcer of all time, or Ken Squire can never tell you. So having drivers in the booth is fantastic, but I'm going to say it now. I know I said it toward the end of last season. I said it early in this season. The Waltrip brothers have got to go. Have Darrell come out and say boogity, 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 and that's it.
I would agree so. And also one thing I want to point out from the race on Saturday was it looked as if the race was going to come down on fuel mileage, because Justin Allgaier, I think he was only like 70-something laps on fuel or 60-something laps on fuel. But the only thing that I kind of got a little bit irritated on was, Justin had like a 30-second lead, and everybody else was like coming down like the front stretch and like the back stretch and everything. But what was also interesting at the same time was, you had the JD Motorsports cars that were running like second, third, and fourth. I think like BJ McLeod, and then Johnny Davis's team, whatever it was running like third or fourth. And I'm sitting there going like, okay, so like, let's say if Justin Allgaier wins the race, not only he's going to be the eligible one for the Dash for Cash, but now you have the BJ McLeods, the Johnny Davises, and then one of the other small teams are going to run for that money as well. Well, The problem is, let's say like if that happened on Saturday at Dover, Justin Allgaier would win the Dash for Cash real easily, and everybody else would finish like in like the 20s and 30s and stuff and so forth. And it's actually funny too, because when I was thinking about, when they were saying like, fuel mileage at Talladega, there's one story, and there was actually one race that kind of came to my mind. And 1991 at Talladega, where everybody
Wait. Were you even born in 1991?
No, but I've actually watched the highlights on YouTube.
My man, that's why you're the best co-host in the racing gimmick.
Thank you. So 1991, if you remember this race, so everybody was trying to pit for fuel, and some of the guys were either like running out or they were like getting close on fuel. Harry Gant, I think he pretty much stretched the fuel mileage to the limit, and there was one point, and I know there's a rule saying like if you run out of gas on the last lap, you can't have assistance. Well, if you watch the video real closely, you can see his, former teammate or whatever it is, Rick Mast, or whoever was driving that car, kind of pushing him down the backstretch. And everybody was wondering, like, wait a second, he's not out of gas, is he? Because if he's out of gas, he can't do that. So by the time they came out of turn 4, Rick kind of pulled down to the inside, thinking, okay, NASCAR's probably going to see me doing this, so I'm going to have to pull down the inside just to make sure. So Harry ends up winning the race, and now you have some guys that were kind of like mad, saying like, oh, Harry got assistance on the last lap, we want to like protest the victory and so forth. So Darrell Waltrip protested the win. So
of course he did.
But listen to this, and it gets very interesting too. So Bill France Jr. Came up to him and said, "So you think Harry ought to be disqualified, huh?" And Darrell said, "Yeah, you got that right." So then he says, "Well, how about the guy who ran second? Spoiler is about 10 degrees too low." And funny fact, Darrell Waltrip finished second in that race that day, because
of course he did.
A little side story was the reason why Bill France Jr. said that was because there was one part where Darrell Waltrip was coming down to the pits and he didn't have any brakes. The guys had to pull on the spoiler just so that they can get his car to stop. So then Darrell ended up saying, you know what? Let's just leave it the way it is.
Of course. And look, you guys, today, everybody loves DW. And look, I was a fan of DW for a long time.
Yeah.
Not at the 1989 Winston, but
Right.
Hey, Rusty Wallace, gotta do what you gotta do. But I always loved DW. He was a 3-time champion. He was a guy that you knew would go out there and drive the tires off the car and beat the Pistons to death. But at the same time, Darrell Waltrip had a mouth on him. And when Darrell Waltrip opened his mouth, you knew there was going to be controversy involved. So if Darrell Waltrip was accused, and I'm throwing the quotation marks up there, was accused of doing something squirrely, immediately it was like deflection, deflection, deflection. When Darrell Waltrip would accuse somebody of doing something squirrely, was it because there was really something sideways going on, or was it because Darrell Waltrip didn't win the race? There's a lot about Darrell Waltrip that a lot of you younger fans don't know, that folks like me who are 109 years old, we do know. And folks like Corey who go back 30 years before they're born and watch these races. God bless you, kid. I love that about you.
Yeah.
Watch these races and watch the interviews and just absorb everything NASCAR that they can. And they know that Darrell Waltrip, 100% FOS. And I'm not going to enunciate what that means, because if you understand what FOS means, that's Darrell Waltrip in a nutshell. So let's break down who our picks were going into the Xfinity Series race this past week at Talladega. We both picked Elliott Sadler to win the race. Elliott Sadler did win the Dash for Cash and took home a butt ton of money. But let's go to our sleepers. Corey had Kaz Grala, who came home in 20th, and I had Christopher Bell, who came home in 12th. One thing I wanted to mention, going back to your dissertation of the race, and you said Cole Custer had a chance to win that race.
Yeah.
The thing about Talladega that you guys have to realize that a lot of times it's pack racing. When you go to a place like Dover, or you go to a place like Richmond, or you go to a place like Bristol, or even some of the intermediate tracks like Michigan, a 1 second difference is usually first to second.
Yeah.
At Talladega, first to 16th is less than a second. It's pack racing. So Cole Custer, who had a chance to win that race, and I did watch the last 10 minutes of that race, for him to drop to 9th, he was only a heartbeat away from winning that race.
Yeah.
If he could make a good move, if he could find a drafting partner, what have you, Cole Custer could have easily been the winner of this race. For history's sake, it was Spencer Gallagher. So let me give you the top 10 and some notables. We've talked about it ad nauseum because of the news this week. Spencer Gallagher comes home in victory lane, first place. Brandon Jones, who Corey mentioned earlier, second place. Justin Allgaier, impressive, third place. Noah Gragson, who I know Corey is a big fan of. I am also a fan of Noah Gragson, came in fourth. Elliott Sadler was the highest finisher in the Dash for Cash. He came in fifth. Ryan Sieg, sixth. John Hunter Nemechek, seventh. Great run by him. Tyler Reddick, eighth. Cole Custer, ninth. And Garrett Smithley. I'm sorry. Is this a Sherlock Holmes novel? Garrett Smithley came in 10th. Your notables, Christopher Bell, 12th. Chase Briscoe, 16th. Kaz Grala, 20th. Daniel Hemrick, 23rd. Matt Tifft, a disappointing 25th. And going down the list, Austin Cindric, 30th. Wow. Not a really great day for the Xfinity guys that are regulars.
Not a good day either. And of course, on that last restart, there were some guys that were low on fuel. And of course, the reason why I think Cindric finished 30th was because he was on also a different fuel strategy than everyone else was. And also, they elected him to stay out because they wanted to get him enough caution laps as possible, and and he ends up running out of gas, and actually not only he ran out of gas, but there were a few other guys that were running out of gas on the last restart, and I'm thinking, okay, somebody definitely needs to save fuel at this point because I don't know who's running out, I don't know who's saving what, but
Right. So when I read this list to you guys, this is the standings for the Xfinity Series as of today. You have to remember that going forward, Spencer Gallagher is ineligible, and he will drop down these standings real quick. So I'm going to give you, instead of the top 12, which is the playoff run for the Xfinity Series, I'm going to give you the top 16. The only reason I'm doing this is because we now have to factor in that Spencer Gallagher is no longer eligible, and the other 4 that are outside of the top 12 now have a better chance of getting in. So going forward, Elliott Sadler leads the pack in first with 356. Tyler Reddick second with 316. Justin Allgaier third with 309. Christopher Bell fourth with 307. Cole Custer fifth with 299. Daniel Hemrick sixth with 297. The aforementioned Spencer Gallagher seventh for now with 277. Brandon Jones eighth with 269. Ryan Truex is ninth with 251. Matt Tifft is 10th with 235. Ryan Reed is 11th with 234, and Ross Chastain rounds out the top 12 with 185. Now I'm going to bring these other 4 in because these guys now have a chance to move up and possibly get themselves into playoff contention with either a win or just a really great string of top 5s, top 10s. Austin Cindric is 13th with 178. Michael Annett 14th with 173. Ryan Sieg 15th with 164. And the aforementioned Kaz Gralla with 155. Quick hit before we bail off into the Cup Series at Talladega. Of those 4 guys, Cindric, Annett, Sieg, and Gralla, who do you see making it into the playoffs, either on points or with a win?
I'm going to have to say it's definitely going to be Austin Cindric because, at the start of the season, I was kind of saying, I think he's going to be a one to watch. The first 3 races, he ends up getting in crashes and, not doing on his own. And so I thought, all right, maybe I'm kind of mistaken a little bit, but I probably say now I want to say that he's figuring out this series pretty well. And you look at his finishes, he only has 1 top 5 and 3 top 10s. So if he can get on that good run the next couple of weeks, I really think he can leapfrog into the top 12 and can be in the playoffs in September. But you look at it, when we get to the road courses in the summer, you got Road America, you have Mid Ohio, you have Watkins Glen. That's going to be Cindric's strong suit, and I really think he could win one of those 3 races on the road courses because we saw it happen before last year in the truck race in Canada because he was in the same situation as what he was a year ago because if he wanted to make the playoffs, he had to win a race. Next thing you know, boom, wins at Canada, gets himself in, went to the championship 4 a year ago and could have ended up winning the championship, but he didn't have enough oomph to it. But I really think Cindric has a really good shot at making the top 12.
That's a great choice right there.
Yeah.
So now we move forward. The Geico 500, fantastic race. As you guys all heard, I announced it last week, and yes, I kept my word. It was the no beer, no alcohol, no whiskey, no nothing but iced tea, oranges, and grapes 500. Yes, for those of you that were worried, I did survive.
Yes.
It was a fantastic race, and lead changes aplenty, a lot of drama, a lot of action, and for me, as a fan of the number 4, Kevin Harvick right behind me, a bit of a disappointment, but I cannot argue the results. Joey Logano ran himself a great race. He kept himself in contention the entire time, took the lead. He led 70-some laps. He really did a great job and very well-deserved victory. Real quick, before I go back, I have to go back. Your happies and sads from the Xfinity race. Sorry.
Yeah, my happy would definitely have to say Brandon Jones ends up finishing second. Even though it was on a super speedway, I really think he did a great job, and I really want to see some good runs out of the 19 camp. They have been running good, but they just got to start running better. My sad would definitely have to be Daniel Hemrick, started on the pole, and he was probably one of the cars, if not probably the best car to win the race, and he ends up cutting a tire near the end, and that pretty much cost him his day.
Well, I'm going to shock a lot of people. My happy and sad are 1 and 2. My happy is Brandon Jones. What a great run for this kid. Comes home second. Fantastic. It's just amazing how he wheeled that car around Talladega and ended up in the 2 spot. my sad, look, he won the race. Yes, we know the problems already. Spencer Gallagher, why? How? Just too many questions. Why? Why, kid? Why?
Right.
It's hard for me to say that my sad for the Xfinity race is the winner of the race, but let's be honest. You've all heard the news story. You heard us talk about it at the top of the program. Spencer Gallagher, what the ever-loving stuff. You just really peed away a fantastic opportunity for you and your future going forward. Now, talking about the Geico 500, one of the things that impressed me the most was that some of the younger guys, a lot of people will say that a lot of the main headliner, super funded teams crashed out. They got involved in the big one, and we'll talk about that later. But a lot of these guys like Almirola, Bowman, Suarez, Buescher were running in the top 15 most of the day. So when we go over the top 10 and the notables, these guys were never far out of it. It was great to see, especially Matt DiBenedetto, be up front for a short spell during the race. It was fantastic. I loved seeing the young guys be competitive at the 2.66 mile super speedway in Talladega.
Yeah, I'd probably say, and one notice that kind of took me on Sunday was the Fords were just dominant. I mean, you pretty much saw guys like Stewart Haas and Penske and Roush and another Ford team I'm looking for. Front row. Front row was also ones to watch, and because like I said, and also the Wood brothers too. And like I said, back at the Daytona 500, they were the ones to beat. Sadly they came up short. And then you look at all the restrictor plate races last year. All the Fords went to victory lane. Kurt Busch, Daytona 500. Ricky Stenhouse Jr., both Talladega and then the July race of Daytona. And then the playoff race last October was Keselowski. And you look at this race this weekend, I knew the Fords were going to be fast. You had three of the Chevrolet guys finish in the top 10, which is fairly decent. But, I pretty much say that, during the final laps, I really thought that Kurt Busch was going to make a move for the lead. And, when he was going down the backstretch, and I really thought his teammate was going to help him, but he just didn't have like the push, like to get to him. And also you talk about Logano. I'm glad that he's already that he won the race, and now he doesn't have to worry about his car getting an inspection and failing inspection. So Joey, you're in the playoffs finally, and I really think that this 22 team is going to be a dark horse come playoff time in September.
Without question. And when you talk about the Ford dominance, 6 of the top 10 finishers in this race were Fords. So we've talked about the dominance of Kevin Harvick and Kyle Busch. But one thing that we've glossed over somewhat is that Ford is really paving the way. We've had a Chevy win in Austin Dillon.
Yeah.
We've had a Toyota win in Martin Truex Jr. 3 wins for Toyota with Kyle Busch, but Harvick and Clint Bowyer drive Fords. Beyond that, I don't think anybody else has won. I think I've rattled them all off.
I think you got them all.
Thank you. So I think Ford right now is the class of the field, and we're going to have to watch going forward, especially in Dover, when we get to the particulars of that track, where it's small, it's high banked, it's concrete versus asphalt, where it doesn't tear your tires up as much. The speed is going to be a factor, where the Fords have had the speed all year long. But one thing I took away from this race that I already mentioned, the young guys, was how dismal some of the powerhouses did in the race. Denny Hamlin with 3 pit road penalties. And they were things that were in his control, not beyond his control, like an air gun or whatever. It was pit road speed each and every time. You're a professional. Denny Hamlin's been on the circuit for 12, 13 years. You already know what you have to do and how you have to do it. How do you get 3 pit road speed penalties in this race is beyond me.
Yeah, pretty much. And the problem with that is you're coming on the racetrack, it's like 195 miles an hour, and you're coming down pit road. You have to slow it down to 55. So, and the problem is, these guys are jamming on the brakes as fast as they can. And, you see all of the tire smoke come up, and then there's actually been some parts where, somebody would check up, and we actually saw that last year where somebody was trying to come on the pit road, and I guess either the 77 or somebody got into the one of Jamie McMurray, and then he ends up crashing. And not to mention McMurray was in the playoffs last year. But the problem with that is, you're coming on the pit road and you have to get all the way down to 55 as fast as possible. But the problem is, it's hard getting down from 195, 200 to 55, because once you come on the pit road and your tachometer is red, guess what? You're busted for speeding on pit road. And that's pretty much the hard part too. And then you also look at the Xfinity race, I think Saturday, where I guess it kind of rained the night before. And, there was also, one part in the race where everybody was trying to come on the pit road, and some cars actually got into some of the wet spots, which, that made it pretty slippery. And if I can't recall, I think Elliott Sadler got penalized for speeding on pit road, because the reason why he did that was because he tried to avoid a car that was spinning coming on the pit road. Now, had he not do that, he would have got damage, and that would have cost him his day.
Right. And going back to both Xfinity and Cup Series, you guys, not that any of you guys are watching this, and if you do, feel free, chime in, tell us what we're saying that is wrong.
Right.
You guys know what you need to do. It's not a secret. Unlike baseball, where you get out on the field, you practice for a half hour, and then you play the game. If you guys have never been to a NASCAR weekend, whether it's at Dover, New Hampshire, Talladega, etc., it's 5 days where you get out there, you practice, you're driving the track, you're learning the car, and you're learning the track. And when you come down pit road, you're learning that you hear it all the time on a NASCAR broadcast. Hit your marks. So when you're going into the pits, you know where your marks are. You know where you need to decelerate. You know where you need to heavy on the brake. You know when you get to that commitment line, you know where you have to be on the tachometer. Because guys, in case you don't know this, there's not like in your car a miles per hour dial or telemetry or whatever. We see it on the television, but the drivers don't. And they'll tell them, if you've ever listened to a scanner, 3,500, 3,500, be it 3,500 or whatever the case is at any different particular track. If your tachometer is at 3,500, it means you're doing, say, X amount of miles an hour. You know what to do. So for a guy like Denny Hamlin to have 3 pit road speeding penalties, really bothersome, in my opinion.
I'd say so too.
Okay, so let's go through the top 10 and some notables. Before we go any further, let's go over our picks. We'll start with Corey. Corey picked Eric Almirola as his lock. Eric Almirola finished 7th. Good job by you.
Yep.
You also picked Paul Menard as your sleeper. Unfortunately, Paul Menard went to sleep in 30th that day.
Yep.
And your hopeful was Jamie McMurray, and Jamie Mack came home in 28th. Not the best week for you, but you've had some stellar weeks before this. So we'll go to mine. I wasn't too much better. I picked Jimmy Johnson as my lock. Jimmy Johnson came home in a respectable 12th. I also had Brad Keselowski as my sleeper. Brad Keselowski was deep in sleep in 33rd, and I had Daniel Suarez as my hopeful. Daniel Suarez brought my day up by being in 10th. So let's go through the top 10 and the notables. Obviously, you already know by now. Joey Logano wins the race. Kurt Busch 2nd. Chase Elliott 3rd. Again, Chase Elliott. When are you going to figure out how to win a race? We don't know. We're never going to know. Are we going to know? There's too many variables. Yeah. Kevin Harvick comes in 4th. Ricky Stenhouse Jr. ran a great race, and he came home in 5th. David Reagan 6th. Eric Almirola 7th. Alex Bowman, a surprising 8th. Great run by him. Ryan Newman, the Thug, came in 9th, and Daniel Suarez was your 10th place finisher. Other notables, Chris Buescher, a surprising 11th. Jimmy Johnson, 12th. Kyle Busch, 13th. Denley Hamlin, 14th. Bubba Wallace, 16th. Let's go down to Ryan Blaney in 18th. Matt DiBenedetto led 6 laps. He was in 19th. But now, here's where the rubber meets the road. Martin Truex, 26th. Jamie McMurray, 28th. Paul Menard, 30th. Clint Boyer, 31st. Brad Keselowski, 33rd. Austin Dillon, 35th. We're starting to see that trend once again where the big guys are having problems. Can they be overcome?
I'd probably say so.
Okay. All right, then. So let's go to the top 10 in points, and we'll get some notables out. Actually, top 16, because in the Cup Series, 16 is the thing. Now, here's the caveat of this. The 17th place driver has a win, so he's already in. So whatever these standings are, ignore 17th.
Yeah.
Kyle Busch leads the pack with 447 and first. Joey Logano second with 417 and a win. Kyle Busch obviously has 3 wins, as does the third place finisher Kevin Harvick, 366 with 3 wins. Clint Boyer is fourth, 335 with 1 win. Kurt Busch is in fifth with 320. Brad Keselowski sixth with 317. Denny Hamlin seventh, 314, no wins. Ryan Blaney eighth. Great run for this kid. I'm expecting big things out of Ryan Blaney. 313 and 8th with no wins. Martin Truex, your defending champion, is in 9th with 303 and 1 win. And Kyle Larson rounds out the top 10 with 280 and no wins. Now, the next 6 drivers right now, with the exception, obviously, one of these guys is going to get bumped out because Austin Dillon is in 17th. I'm going to say this now. Austin Dillon, 17th, 210 with 1 win. He's in. That's the way the rules work.
Yep.
So, Eric Almirola is in 11th with 278. Alex Bowman, 12th, 238. Eric Jones, 13th, 234. Great to see 3 young guys back to back to back battling for a playoff spot. Jimmy Johnson, again, we're like 9-10 races into the season, and Jimmy Johnson is outside the top 10. 230, no wins. Ricky Stenhouse Jr., 15th, 217, no wins. Ryan Newman, the Thug, 16th, 214, no wins. We talked about Austin Dillon in 17th. He's got a win, so he's automatically in. Here are your notables. Chase Elliott, 209 and 18th. Paul Menard, 206 and 19th. William Byron, 202 in 20th. Obviously, Austin Dillon gets immediately bumped up into the playoff picture. Elliott, Menard, Byron, who makes the playoffs?
Oh, I probably say I really think Chase Elliott has a good shot at making the playoffs. I mean, you just look at it. 3 top 5s, 5 top 10s. His average finish right now is 15th, so which is kind of decent, but then yet again, like I really expect the 9 team to run, pretty better than what he did this past weekend. I mean, even though he finished third, good run, but yet again, they just got to start. They got to start clicking away, finishing top 5s and top 10s every week.
All right, so let's knock this out of the park real quick. After what is seemingly the longest absence ever, the Truck Series returns to Dover. Give us the short and the skinny, and then we'll pick our lock and our sleeper.
All right. So we have the truck guys racing Friday, which that'll be on 5:00 Eastern time on FS1, and I believe if it's going to be on Motor Racing Network, it is. Yes, it will. I don't know the name of the race though. So actually, they just ran their practice today because I know they have their race tomorrow. So I'm just going to read the notables who was fastest in practice this afternoon. So Brett Moffitt, who won at Atlanta, was the fastest driver in practice. Noah Gragson was in second. Johnny Sauter third. Todd Gilliland is going to be back in the Ford truck. He was in fourth. Stuart Friesen, top 5. I'm really impressed by this 52 truck.
Wow.
Austin Hill, 6th. Justin Haley, 7th. Cody Coughlin, 8th. Parker Kligerman, in the 75 truck, 9th, and Matt Crafton rounds out the top 10.
All right. Well, originally, I had Matt Crafton winning this race as my lock, but the more I thought about it, this is a race that is pretty much I don't know. I don't know the words to put into this, but this will be a Noah Gragson race. So I have him as my lock. Before, when I texted you earlier and I said, I can't find the starting list and and then went through practice and I did get to see that. I put Brett Moffitt as my sleeper. I really think that this track, concrete, tires aren't going to get torn up as much. Brett Moffitt has as good a chance as any of the 30 or so trucks that are going to be in this race. That's going to be these are my picks: Noah Gragson, Brett Moffitt as lock first. Noah Gragson, sleeper second, Brett Moffitt.
Yep. Yeah, my lock is definitely going to be Gragson. I really think that this is going to be the weekend where that 18 truck is definitely going to win a race this year. And, they were strong right off the bat. I mean, they were finishing in the top 5 almost every week, and they're running up front too, which I'm really impressed by. But I really think this is going to be the weekend where Gregson's going to go to victory lane. And then my sleeper, I'm definitely going to keep an eye out on Todd Gilliland because I really think that this kid's going to run pretty well. Especially that he's running in Kyle Busch equipment, and which is like no surprise at all. But and actually, it's a funny fact because Todd turns 18 in about 2 weeks. So once he turns 18, you're going to see him run pretty much the remainder of the season. And not only that, he's going to be running for Rookie of the Year honors, and then possibly could run for the championship. I mean, he's only ran like one race so far this year because all the other tracks he wasn't old enough.
Well, things
Todd
like that
out there. Well, it's really going to be fun seeing Todd, and not to mention his dad, David Gilliland's going to be running tomorrow as well, driving the 54. So it's going to be very interesting.
All right, here's a crazy scenario for you because I don't think we've seen since the Dale Sr., Dale Jr. days, and maybe in this era, Joe Nemechek, John Hunter Nemechek, father and son race on the same track with each other because in NASCAR, for some reason, the age gap is way wide. If Todd and David Gilliland run next to each other, does father push son out of the way to get a win, or does father push son forward to get a win?
I'm going to have to say the second one.
Okay, I'll buy it. Absolutely 1,000% I'll buy it. All right, moving forward, the Xfinity race. What's the name of the race? What do we got going on?
Okay, so I just got to get my computer. There we go. So Saturday, we have the Xfinity race. I think it's the One Main Financial 200, if I'm not mistaken. So that race is going to be on 1:30 on FS1, and then Motor Racing Network. If you have Sirius XM radio, it is on channel 90, the NASCAR radio. So again, Dash for Cash race. So that means no Cup drivers for the 3rd straight week. So I'm going to give you the list of. So I'm going to give you the list of notables of all the guys that are going to be replacing the Cup boys this weekend. So
am I too excited when it comes? I'm sorry to interrupt you. Am I too excited when it comes to no Cup drivers on the Xfinity series? Is it showing?
I think you're beyond excited, and I mean for me, I think it's exciting as well because think about it, we're not seeing the Cup guys run every single weekend, and we're not seeing them win all the races. Well, besides the fact that Keselowski ended up winning and Kyle Larson won and Joey Logano won, but that's pretty much a different story. But this is pretty much the reason why I like the Xfinity series because you get to see all those guys, that are trying to make a name for themselves, that are trying to get to the Cup Series. And, here they are, they're running in the top 5 winning races. So, yeah, I'm pretty excited about this, and I really like how NASCAR is doing.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. There was something back in the day about seeing, Randy LaJoie and Buckshot Jones and just a lot of the Xfinity Series drivers, and I can't remember a lot of them now because, for whatever reason, I just can't. But always loved Randy LaJoie, Connecticut's own, Norwalk, Connecticut. And Buckshot Jones, there was something about Buckshot I just absolutely loved. But you saw 1 or 2 or 3 Cup drivers. You didn't see like 10. And
Right.
when Mark Martin was doing his thing on the then Busch Series, then Nationwide Series, now Xfinity Series, next year might be the Stay Free Mini Pad Series. We don't know. But the thing is, Mark Martin doing it, I had no problem with it. The reason why is he never won a championship on the Cup Series. But when Harvick goes down, when Busch goes down, Kyle that is, when Keselowski goes down, you've won on the highest level. Stay away from the feeder system. You're killing me. Yeah. So, to hear that no Cup drivers this week, I'm excited.
Nice. So, so I'm going to read down the list of Cup the list of Xfinity guys replacing the Cup boys. So we got Jeb Burton, who's going to be running the number 3 car for Richard Childress Racing. I believe it's his second race for RCR. Noah Gregson's going to be back in the 18 car for the 3rd straight week. So this is going to be his 3rd race. And then other than that, we got to figure out what he's going to be doing for 2019. Austin Cindric is going to be in the 22 car this weekend for Team Penske. And then John Hunter Nemechek is going to be in the 42 car. So other notables, you have Elliott Sadler, you have Matt Tifft, you have Tyler Reddick, Ryan Truex, Joe Nemechek, Ryan Reed, Christopher Bell, Brandon Jones, Daniel Hemrick, Johnny Sauter, which, by the way, GMS announced that Sauter is going to be in the 23 car on Saturday. So I think he's going to be in it for this weekend. I'm not sure if he's going to be in that car for quite some time. I mean, it might be, guys from GMS, that'll probably run that car that weekend. But we'll have to see what happens when we get to Charlotte in a couple weeks. But we got Kaz Grall in the 24. You got Ryan Sieg, who's going to be running for the Dash for Cash this weekend as well. Stephen Light, Ty Majeski is going to be in the 60 car. Morgan Shepherd, Spencer Boyd, and Jeff Green.
Okay. Well, I'm just going to come out of the box. I'm just going to give you a lock and the sleeper in bang fashion. Dover, when I went, wasn't last year, it was the year before. I went to the truck race, and it was one of the absolute very first times I got to see a young gentleman named Christopher Bell. He handled that track so superbly, and he's my pick in the Xfinity race as the lock. Short tracks, everybody comes up through a short track, and everybody, there's no local track that's 2.6 like Talladega. There's no track like 1.5 like Kansas or others. So if you're going to talk short track racing and you're going to talk a guy who I think is going to be the sleeper, is going to be Massachusetts' own Kaz Gralla. Those are my picks. My lock is Bell. My sleeper is Gralla.
Yeah, my lock is definitely going to be Christopher Bell, too. And I really think that this is going to be a Christopher Bell type of race because we saw at Richmond, pretty much handled the 3/4 mile track really well and, dominated the race. And, not to mention, I really think that this kid is going to be a one to watch this season. So Bell is definitely going to be my lock. And then my sleeper, I'm going to have to go with Noah Gragson because, even though this is his 3rd straight race and he's been finishing in the top 5 almost all 2 of them, but something tells me that I really think that, it could be a Joe Gibbs 1-2 finish for, Bell and Gregson, and not to mention, I really think it could come down to like what happened at Richmond a couple weeks ago where these guys battle it out for the win. But yeah, I'm really interested, in Gregson, and I really think that, that this kid could probably win a race maybe in his 3rd start because if you look at it, I think he kind of knows this series a little bit well, but then yet again, we'll just have to see what happens.
Oh, absolutely. Now, we move on to the Cup Series. What is the race? And I'm going to let you go first and tell us who your picks are.
Okay, so the race on Sunday, it is the FedEx 400 Drive to Benefit Autism. That'll be on 2 o'clock Eastern time on FS1. And then, of course, if you have Sirius XM radio, make sure you go on channel 90. That is the NASCAR radio, which Motor Racing Network will have the coverage this weekend. So notables, you have Jamie McMurray, you have Dover winner Brad Keselowski, you have Dover winner Kevin Harvick, Chase Elliott, who finished runner-up a year ago, Eric Almirola, and then I believe you have Dover winner Denny Hamlin, Ryan Blaney, Clint Boyer, Stenhouse, who's run pretty good at Dover before. You have multiple Dover winner Kyle Busch. You have Eric Jones. You have Paul Menard. You have Joey Logano. Dover winner Ryan Newman, the thug. You have
the thug. I was at one of his Dover wins, and I cheered for him, and I'm kind of upset that I have.
Yeah, and that was when he was driving the 12 car during the Penske days, and which he used to dominate there for quite some time.
Absolutely.
And then you have Dover winner Kurt Busch. You have Kyle Larson, who's run really well at the Monster Mile. You have the 11-time Dover winner, if I'm reading this correct, Jimmy Johnson. You have Dover winner Martin Truex Jr. You have Casey Kane, and you have Derek Cope. So I'm gonna start off first. So my lock. This one was kind of a tough.
Derek Cope. No,
as I thought I would.
Okay, dude.
No, actually,
I threw it out there. I thought.
My Dover winners my Dover lock was kind of a little bit of a toss up. So I'm thinking, I'm gonna kind of say, my lock this weekend is going to be the 18 to Kyle Busch because, this is one of his favorite racetracks that he likes to run and has won there. I think 3 times, I can't remember, but and not to mention he won this race a year ago to get himself to the next round and so forth. But I really think that, since he ran pretty well at Bristol, I think, you might see this 18 car run up front and, could lead the most laps and win the race. Now, my sleeper, I'm definitely going to say Jimmy Johnson. This time, I'm going to say Jimmy Johnson because, let's face it, we're at Dover, and he's run there really well in the past. He's won there 11 times, and not to mention, even though he finished third at Bristol a couple weeks ago, I really think that this could probably be the weekend where the 48 team can get back on their saddle, and hopefully they could run up front, maybe win a race, to get themselves into the playoffs no matter what. But yeah, that was kind of it was kind of a tricky one, looking at the entry list. So I'm thinking, okay, I kind of like this, I'm not sure about this one. This guy kind of has a good shot. This guy will probably wait till like next year or so forth. But yeah, that's how it all goes.
All right, you got a hopeful. Don't forget the Cup Series. We always have a hopeful.
Okay, hopeful, and this is going to be an easy one. Kyle Larson.
Larson, okay, I'm going to write that down. Well, he's had some bad luck this season, and there's nothing wrong with picking Kyle Larson. I know upstairs, the Eternal Flame and the Goddess of Love is really not enjoying this season. I mean, it's easy for her to go, like, hey, Harvick won 3 races, yay! But at the same time, the guy she picked to replace Dale Earnhardt Jr. as her favorite driver, it's like, where did Kyle Larson finish? 38. There's a certain bit of deflation to your balloon when that happens. When it comes to my lock this week, I went a little sideways. I don't know if he's ever won at Dover. I didn't look at the stats, but I looked at the momentum carrying into this race, and I really think Brad Keselowski comes home in victory lane this week. That's my lock. My sleeper is a guy that I've watched win at Dover, and he knows how to navigate the short tracks. He knows, he knows how to navigate the high bank tracks on whether it's a mile and a half, 2 miles, whatever. He's navigated the high banks of Daytona. He's navigated the high banks of, Richmond. Denny Hamlin is my sleeper. I really think Hamlin is better than what we've seen this season. And if I have to pick somebody other than Keselowski to be the top guy, it's going to be Hamlin. Not to say that I'm not going to be cheering on the number 4 team this week, but educated picks, that's what I got to do. That's what this show's all about. My hopeful, as it has been every single damn week that we've done this, Chase Elliott, find your way to victory lane so I can stop picking you as a hopeful and I can finally move on to someone like Bubba Wallace or Daniel Suarez or somebody else as a hopeful, because I'm sick of picking you as the hopeful, but I'm going to continue to do it until you learn what your daddy learned and find your way to victory lane.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's all you got is, you're killing me right now. You're Stat Guru Jones. You're absolute 100% Schneebitz, and you're killing me right now.
Well, all I
But
can just
I
say is,
understand why you said
well, all I can
because
just say
you,
is,
like me, go ahead.
well, all I can just say is, Chase has finished second like 8 times, and his father Bill finished second 8 times. So this could probably be the weekend.
It
He
could
could win.
possibly be, but there's something about Chase Elliott that I cannot put my hopes behind and say this is the week. This is my lock. He's not even a sleeper to me. He's a hopeful because you can be second place Jones throughout your entire career and it never translates. I don't want Chase Elliott to be that guy. We've seen him do well on the Xfinity Series. We know he knows how to get to victory lane. We know he knows how to navigate a race car. What is the difference? And this may be a real quick off the topic question.
Yeah.
But what is stopping Chase Elliott from being Cup driver supreme where he was Cup driver or Xfinity driver supreme? What's the difference other than, and I have to throw this caveat out there, you have champions like Busch, Keselowski, Harvick, Johnson, both Busch brothers. You have champions asunder on the Cup Series. Is it the competition or is it Chase himself?
I mean, I want to say it's a little bit of both, but if I'd had to pick one, it definitely has to be the competition because if you think about it, he's in the Cup Series, you're in the big leagues, the races are longer, and not to mention the cars have a lot more horsepower than what it is in the Xfinity Series and so forth. And, also 16 drivers have to make it in. But yeah, I mean, you look at the races that Chase has finished second, some of them, he could have won. I mean, I could look at Dover last year. He was probably, I would say, 2 laps away from winning the race until he got caught up in lap traffic. And when you get caught up in lap traffic, especially when it comes to Dover, you just have to find your way to get around like as quick as possible because the second place guy is coming up on you like real quick. And that's what happened last year. Kyle Busch took the lead with 2 laps to go and, never looked back since. And, you also look at, Richmond, could have had a shot to win the race there. He didn't have a really good restart from what they expected. But, once Elliott got a good bite in the corner, there was just no way, he could have catch the 18. But I really think that this kid, and keep this in mind, I really think he's going to win races. It's just that the only thing right now is he just has to finish the deal. Like he just has to start running up front, and he's got to run up front a lot more, and he's got to start leading laps and, just be there at the end. And of course, he always says, he beats himself, and he's saying, we could have won and so forth. But hey, a lot of good guys have finished second, and they've had that situation before. There's been guys like Jeff Gordon and Tony Stewart and, Dale Jr. and Keselowski, Kyle Busch, Kurt Busch. I mean, the list just goes on and on. But I really think that this kid can definitely win a race this year without a doubt. But I probably say, if he doesn't win a race, then, I really think that, that Hendrick Motorsports would have to make a change.
I don't know about a change. I mean, he's consistent. He's in the top 10. He's doing his job. But the job is also to get to victory lane. One of the things that bothers me about Chase Elliott, and in the same token, it impresses me about Chase Elliott, is when he has a chance to win the race, he doesn't. That's what bothers me. What impresses me about Chase Elliott is that when he has a chance to win a race and he doesn't, he'll come out and tell you, I made this mistake, I made this mistake, I made this mistake. He owns everything. He's not, no offense to current race winner Joey Logano, he's not Joey Logano. He's not Kyle Busch. Going down the list of guys over the years that I've watched and just been whiners for a long time, until somewhere in the mid-2000s, Jeff Gordon was that guy. If Jeff Gordon didn't win, there was a plethora of excuses why he didn't. But then one day, Jeff Gordon woke up and he said, you know what? On this day, I wasn't good enough. I didn't have the car. I thought I had the car. Didn't happen. Sorry. Next week is a new week. So, for Chase Elliott, one of the things that I think he really, it goes back to baseball in my mind, where you're a young guy. You need that moment. You need that moment where you hit the walk-off home run or the walk-off single or anything that helps you win the game. There's a certain confidence level that Chase Elliott does not have right now. That as soon as he crosses that finish line first, he'll have that confidence, and you'll watch his driving style will change. His attitude will change. Everything about him will change to where you're not saying, well, right now Chase Elliott's in third and I'm watching the crawler on Fox or NBC and I know Chase Elliott's going to be a top 5 guy. You're going to be like, well, wait, Chase Elliott's in third? He's got a real chance to win this race. And we saw it with Kyle Busch. He didn't win right away in his NASCAR foray. It took him a while. Not everybody can be Kevin Harvick. Not everybody can be, a guy that wins in his first 5-10 races. Chase Elliott's now in his second full-time season. There's a lot to worry about if you wear the number 9 gear, and there's just certain things that Chase Elliott has to overcome before he becomes Chase Elliott in capital letters.
I mean, without a doubt, and then of course, not to mention, now that Dale Earnhardt Jr. is retired, there's also the big question of, who do you think wins NASCAR's most popular driver for 2018?
You know what? It's funny. I've been thinking about this a lot because, Bill Elliott for years was the most popular driver. When Senior dies, Dale Senior, Bill Elliott bows out and says, nope, I don't want to be the popular driver. And Dale Earnhardt Sr. wins. And it's Bill Elliott again, and then it's Dale Earnhardt Jr. for a bazillion years.
Yeah.
Now we have this interesting conundrum is who's going to be the most popular driver? Well, the beautiful thing about NASCAR is that you have 40 drivers to choose from, give or take, and there's not one of them that is a clear favorite. Now, if the sympathy vote goes to Chase Elliott, I don't buy it. But his performance this year certainly would lend itself to, well, Chase Elliott deserves it. Could it be Kyle Busch? Could it be Kevin Harvick? Could it be Brad Keselowski? Could it be even Kurt Busch, who's run fantastically this season? The jury's out. I could answer this question better if you asked me in July versus asking me in May.
I mean, I want to say, and I'm actually kind of thinking about this too, and my pick for the most popular driver award would definitely have to be Kevin Harvick. I mean, because you look at it, former champion, he's won races, he's won the Daytona 500, but what's actually kind of interesting about him is that he speaks from his mind. He speaks what's going on with the cars. He speaks his own opinions, what NASCAR needs to do and what NASCAR, should do and all that stuff. And keep this in mind, Kevin Harvick, if you're watching this right now, I definitely agree 110% on everything what you said, especially when you said one time on the show Happy Hours. And by the way, guys, Harvick has that show Happy Hours on XM Radio Channel 90. I think it's on 7 o'clock on Tuesdays. And I haven't really checked it out, but from what I know, it's a really great show. And Kevin, I really liked that one time where he said the Truck Series needs to do something with their schedule. For instance, they need to have more short tracks. They need to have that emphasis to it. How they started back in the 90s and so forth. And there was also one valid point where he wanted to do something with the All-Star race where he said like he wanted to move the All-Star race to a different racetrack like every year. It's kind of like how, Major League Baseball does their All-Star game, but mostly like NASCAR stuff. And there was one part where he wanted to have the All-Star race at the Nashville Fairgrounds Speedway. And so I was listening in the car on the radio or wherever I was listening to, like when he said that, I said, he's right. Because you look at the All-Star race, there's only been one time where the All-Star race, was at a racetrack other than Charlotte, and that was Atlanta back in 1986. And since then, the All-Star race has been in Charlotte for many years. And then, of course, the fans have been saying, like, the All-Star race has been boring. We want to try and we want to see something like exciting. So then NASCAR says, okay, we're going to come out with this rules package that the Xfinity guys had last year in Indianapolis, which, of course, a lot of side-by-side, a lot of, passing for the lead, and a lot of, drafting and, a lot of that whole, slingshot into the corners and so forth. So, but, yeah, honestly, my pick for my pick for the most popular driver award would definitely have to be Kevin Harvick, because not only he's a former champion, but he's one guy that speaks his own opinion, and when he says it, you listen.
I'm not going to disagree with you, because in my opinion, in my house, Kevin Harvick is the most popular driver ever in the history of ever, other than Rusty Wallace, who you can see up here. But part of me is going to disagree, because right now, and I see the fan reaction he gets, and when you see Jimmy Johnson walk out in driver introductions, you hear boos and you hear cheers in even measure. Right now, in my opinion, and you can argue, not argue, whatever, the guy that gets the most cheers right now is Denny Hamlin. When I watch those driver introductions on TV, he's one of those guys that you don't have to love him, you don't have to hate him, but everybody respects him. So if I had to pick a guy right now that I thought at the end of this season was going to be voted most popular driver, it's Denny Hamlin. There's something about Denny that nobody hates Denny Hamlin. You can walk up to somebody and go, what do you think about Joey Logano? Oh, I hate that guy. Or, oh, I love that guy. Same with Kevin Harvick. Same with Kurt Busch. Same with, let's go to Ryan Newman, the Thug. You either love him or you hate him. Denny Hamlin's a guy that everybody respects. And as much as I love the fact that you went out of your way to say, oh, Kevin Harvick is the most popular driver, I get it. I understand it. But when you look at everything involved, to me, it's Denny Hamlin right now. The curveball that's going to be thrown into that is in, I don't know how many weeks it's from now, Kansas. When Matt Kenseth gets back in that car, everything goes south, because people have been dying to see Matt Kenseth come back. And if he's eligible, that's the most popular driver. But if I have to pick somebody right now, full-time, etc., so forth, it's going to be Denny Hamlin, most popular driver.
Yeah, it's going to be very interesting to see what NASCAR does, and to see who the fans vote for when the end of the NASCAR season's over. But I'm actually really interested, because now that the post Dale Earnhardt Jr. era has started, now we just have to see who's going to end up winning most popular driver award from now until the near future.
Right. Now, plug away. Tell me what you have to plug. Talk about your ministry, etc. Are we going back to Wednesday nights? Do we have to now bounce around? What are we doing?
So we're going back to Wednesday nights. My meetings are over, finally. So next Thursday, a week from today, me and my people from our church group, St. Basil Salvatorian Center, we are going to Norfolk Prison from Thursday to Mother's Day next week. So if you guys are watching this, please pray for us. We're going to be spreading the good word to all the brothers at Norfolk State Prison, and it's going to be very fun. It's going to be a little bit nerve-wracking, but then at the same time, we're going to be making a difference to those brothers in prison, and I'm really excited for this. And not to mention, I'm also going to be giving a talk to the brothers on Saturday night, the day before Mother's Day. So all the NASCAR fans out there, if you guys can give me if you guys can give me some prayers, and if you guys can give me a little bit of good luck, it should be great. And I really think this talk is going to hit it right out of the park. But anywho, real quick, Facebook, keep following me on NASCAR IndyCar Central. We post up results, standings, news, and a lot more of whatever fun stuff we post up on there. It's also opinionated. So guys, if you guys want to post up your opinions, feel free to do so. Instagram, I am at NASCAR IndyCar. Twitter, I am at NASCAR Indy. And also, I want to give a little bit of a shout out to Josh. I posted up the Spencer Gallagher article, and I think it was on my NASCAR IndyCar Central Facebook page. And I guess his comment was, NASCAR set him up and so forth. And Josh, I'm gonna clear this right now. They did not set him up. NASCAR has a zero tolerance policy where, if you take something that's on the ban list, of medicine or everything else in between, boom, that's it. You're done indefinitely. Then you have to do the whole road to recovery program. But then yet again, everybody has their own opinions. So that's just how it all goes. And before we end up leaving off this show, we both have to say congratulations to Dale Earnhardt Jr. as he officially becomes a dad. So congratulations to Dale Jr. and wife Amy. They gave birth to a baby girl. They are both pretty healthy right now. And so Dale, all I could just say is the daddy years have just began. And, all I just want to say is congratulations. And, we wish you guys the best of luck.
Well, as a father, I can say, Dale, if you're watching, if anybody passes this along to you, regardless, get ready for questions asunder, because little girls, more so than little boys, will start every sentence with, "Dad, guess what? Dad, guess what? Dad, guess what?" Trust me, I'm the father of a daughter. I have a stepdaughter upstairs. Everything is, guess what? Guess what? Guess what? Guess what? Guess what? Stab me in the forehead now. But having said that, congratulations to Dale and Amy. Isla Rose, I believe her name is.
Yes.
Fantastic. Plugs for me is go to the Loki Jabroni Show Facebook page and please donate to Chad Hatfield and Team World Vision, bringing clean water to countries that don't have access to clean water. And as an added bonus, Chad, this November will be running the New York City Marathon as a part of Team World Vision. Please open your hearts and your wallets, whether it's $1, $5, $50, $10,000, whatever you got. Please donate to Chad and his effort. Going forward, real quick cheap plug. This coming Tuesday night, if you're watching this and you're in the southeastern Connecticut area, the Loki Jabroni Show will be at a place called In the Mood on Buddington Road in Groton, Connecticut, recording live, streaming live. Come see us, interact, shake our hands, sit in my chair, sit in Mike's chair, do what you got to do. But it's going to be a fun time. Even Eddie will be there, and I won't have to put out an APB for Eddie this time because we know he's going to be there. No offense to Eddie. Everybody's tired. Everybody works their ass off. And pardon me for, we don't cuss on this show usually, but Eddie works his tail off. And sometimes he just falls asleep. So, having said that, I hope you guys have a great week. Enjoy the Dover races. Corey, I hope you have a great week. Thank you again for doing the work that you're doing with the prisoners at these facilities, and going forward, whenever you do a ministry again, we'll pimp it out. But when you go to these prisons, if they have computer time, you need to mention C+J Speedway Review. Got to get these guys on board, man.
It's actually funny because I actually have that in my talk, and so it's actually going to be interesting to see how that's going to go, and not to mention, I really want to see what everyone's reactions are after I get my talk out, and who knows, we might just have a lot of the brothers in prison, follow us. And then, of course, like, I really want to mention, like, confidentiality. Like, I really think it's, like, kind of best, like, we don't, like, mention their names, because the team leader, the team leader has been mentioning that, like, at all of our meetings the last couple of weeks. So I think it's, like, literally best, like, that we don't mention our name, like, don't mention their names, so which we can pretty much keep it confident and so forth.
Mm-hmm. Be on the lookout this week for a video on the C&J Speedway review page. Next week, in the bucket of gimmicks, I'm throwing every name on the C&J Speedway review page into the bucket of gimmicks. We're drawing the 3 names that are in the running for that free, 1,000% free Speed Crate driver of your choice. Availability, as it were. If you're a fan of Matt DiBenedetto, sorry. As much as I love Matty D, he doesn't have a Speed Crate. But 3 names are going to be drawn. You are going to have 1 opportunity. And we're going to keep doing this until somebody wins. Trivia. 3 questions about your favorite driver. When we pull your name next week, you're going to have 1 opportunity. Boom. Get on Google Hangouts. You're going to be part of the live feed. Answer 3 questions. I want your hands where I can see them. Put them behind your head. 2 out of 3 is a winner.
Yeah.
That's it. That's all you got to do. You tell me who your favorite driver is. I'm going to come up with 3 questions. Boom, boom, boom. You're going to win a free Speed Crate. We've been pimping this for 8 weeks. My next Speed Crate, paid, is coming in about 10 days. Look forward to sharing it with all of you. But, man, you can't get free stuff everywhere, but you can on the C&J Speedway review.
Absolutely.
Corey, walk them out.
All right. Good night.
Good night, guys.